The pirates. Dr. Lena doesn't have anything special to carry the tiny war crime in, so Franklin simply adds whatever axiom power he can to her, so she goes from having fine control and little power to fine control and immense power. The non-combat doctor proves herself to have a hell of a stride, as she can climb the Lydra scale stairs with some only barely axiom-assisted jumps at a pace the men can respect. She's outright sprinting to the ship and is already barking commands into her communicator as she races. Thankfully, the little girl is greatly amused by the movement, and she starts outright giggling in amusement as things happen. The production of her poisons drop a bit by bit until she's only glistening with poison and not dripping with it. Her tiny hands grab at and try to reach out for the walls and ceiling. But this ship is built to code, so it would take a fully grown Lydris to reach both walls at the same time. Holy fuck, I'm feeling lightheaded. Lou remarks as he follows them in and with no prompting at all, goes to sit at an empty bed. As Franklin finishes helping Lena with the child, he then rushes over to Lou and puts a hand on his forehead. Lou then fades out of his compromised pants and vest as the rest of the gunk falls to the floor. Franklin levitates that up next. Good. Get that into a container of some kind. We need to know what the poison is if we're going to have any chance of fighting it, Dr. Lena says as Beck is next into the infirmary. Tell me you have it. Tell me you have... Perfect, Beck says, quickly checking the cupboards and grabbing several jugs of chemicals that he brings out onto the counter. He mixes 2 of them together in a chemical sampler and turns. Franklin, levitate a bit of that slime into here. Franklin does so, and Beck puts the concoction onto a small part of a counter and activates a hidden burner. He then pulls out a handbook and flips through it fast. What is that? When combined, these chemicals will change color depending on heat and a third chemical. It's made just for this, to test poisons of all kinds. Depending on what, Beck begins and the liquid turns a greenish blue. He double checks his handbook. Okay, that's an anticoagulant? A blood thinner. Shit Lou begins. That's how a lot of snake venoms and rat poisons works. Beck replies before he places the mixture into a sink, and the burner automatically deactivates as he then moves to rifle through capards. Here we are. He brings out an aerosol can. Franklin, grab the patches over there with markings the same color as that stuff. Lou, hold your arms out. Franklin moves and quickly finds several rows of different containers with differing colors and grabs the blue-green that matches what he saw. As he does this, Beck sprays down Lou's arms and makes sure to get a good thick covering. Normally, we'd use one of these or the others, but you took a massive dose, and human resilience or not, you're still feeling it. So we're using both counteragents. And if they counter each other, I'm dead? Lou asks. They won't. These are tested to work together. It's just that the term overkill is normally applicable. For this much poison, we want overkill. Beck answers even as he sets down the spray can of medicine and takes the container from Franklin. All right, now this medicine patch uses Axiom Tech. They're disposable, cheap, and impossible to OD on, so don't worry about waste. If you have any doubts, slap on another. Beck says, opening the container and removing a small, individually packaged thing. It's a small patch that's covered in blue-green lines that intersect in a diamond pattern. The diamonds in the middle turn solid blue-green when Beck applies them to Lou's right bicep. All right, here's how it works. The lines will fade as the medicine in these things gets used up. The solids in the middle will stay that way so long as you need more medicine. If you run out of lines, replace it with another patch. Again, don't worry about overdosing on these things. They have so many safeties you could cover a newborn in them, and all you'd get is a funny picture for an album. Okay, so I just need some clean pants and... No, you're staying here. You got a huge dose of blood thinner in your system. Stay still and stay calm till it's out. If you don't, you can start internally hemorrhaging, so bad you'll bleed out without a cut. We already raced here. All the more reason not to push it any further. I'm bringing in a medic's veto. You're staying in the infirmary until we can confirm you're healthy again. Then another 12 hours if I can have my say. 24, Dr. Leena corrects from where the tiny Lydris girl is gorging herself on a small feast of fish, jerky, and leftover bird meat, while a scanner above her reorients and scans her over and over again. This is weapons-grade poison. We're being careful with this, understand? Ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Lou says, Do I at least have permission to take my boots off? Yes, Franklin, you and Beck are to stay with me. If this little girl gets agitated, I want her contained fast and non-lethally. Beck, you're the only other one here that can withstand this poison and has the training to actually help out. We'll bring along some of the girls while clearing out the rest, Miles says from the door. Franklin nods as he leans against a counter, even as Beck starts walking towards where Dr. Lena is using a ball of light to track the awareness of the 8 different Lidris bodies. Seeing as how they have everything under control, they leave the room and head down the ship. Girls, our team is broken up a bit. Care to join us to clear the last few rooms? At that invitation, an entire platoon of mech pilots start following them. Miles gets a brief moment of vertigo where he remembers so very clearly fighting against these mecha troops. However, when that happened, they wanted him alive and unharmed. This time they're ready to kill and for him instead. He grins viciously as he attaches the strap to his main gun and slings it over his back. Quick draw may be more useful than the long gun. Not that he needed to. The last few rooms are exactly the same as levels 1 and 2. The complex is officially clear, which means it's now time to bring in the people that can actually start figuring things out. Hey guys, what did I miss? Lou asks, walking into the meeting room. He's taking his time. One of the diamonds on his newest patch is still solid, but the other 3 central diamonds are clear. Does that thing work differently on the neck? Miles asks. No, but I'm not allowed to put one on my forehead, mostly because you're supposed to be able to see them yourself, Beck says tartly. And the fact I've got 9 sets of eyes that can do the spotting work for me? Besides, I know I'm going to need another in a half hour anyways. Lou asks, my head's mostly clear, and scanners say that I've dodged bleeding out internally, but it came close. Which brings us to one of our most pressing topics. We've rescued a potential super soldier, a living war crime who's covered in and endlessly producing a poison that can drop even us, Miles says. How big? Sai asks. Infant Lidris. Small for one as well, which means she's about the size of a large dog for the lower body, and there's a gaggle of 2-year-old girls sticking out of massive necks. She's a ravenous carnivore, fast, unpredictable, and as already stated, covered in a dangerous contact poison. Miles answers and there's a pause. Really? That's not good. It makes what we found in Miss Finnell's former lair seem rather tame by comparison. And what did you find? Her birth certificate. Apparently the woman was a mere 300 years of age. What? But we have a confession from a Dr. Finnell that she's responsible for all this, and it's more of a frame-up by the second, isn't it? Could have been an ancestor or a forgery. Still, when the facts don't add up, it means you're either missing some information or looking at things from the wrong angle. Franklin notes as he leans back and thinks hard. Our best lead is still our living witness Moira. Trauma aside, she knows at least something. In the meantime, we can do some digging on the Unrelenting Legion. Apparently, they funded this place, so there has to be some kind of record somewhere. Ryu notes. This is a black site, off the books and highly illegal. Lou reminds him. Yes, however, even black ops organizations have at least a public face. Find that, and we have some more answers. Ryu returns and there's some thoughts. Still, the big juicy secrets of the hidden lab need time to be fully extracted by our hackers and for Moira to recover. Because the only other survivor doesn't even know how to talk. What do we call her anyways? She's a piece of Moira literally remade into a living weapon. But she's still a little girl. Lou says, and there's some thought. She left the biggest impact on you, Lou, so you have until Moira wakes up and possibly comes up with an idea of her own to come up with a name. Liu Shu. Lou says, and everyone gives him a blank look. It's a slight butchering of Willow in Chinese. Willow? Anticoagulants, many movements, strong base. It works in several ways. You've given this some thought, Miles notes. I had little else to do as I waited for the medicine to work. Lou replies, the child is young, but nearly feral already. She is moving on instinct and she is at most a dangerous animal now. But the potential there, let's not count our chickens before they hatch. What's to be done with the child? She's an innocent, so just killing her is off the list. But properly raising and rearing a child who can kill on contact, by accident no less, is a very dangerous and difficult thing to do. Franklin asks as he considers things. Not if you set her up with a synth foster parent. Remember, as insanely resistant to poison as a human is, there is at least one demographic that makes us look like chumps by comparison, Miles says. Hard to fall prey to the contact poison if you don't have the skin to absorb it. Lou agrees. So now that that is settled, somewhat, what did you find in Fennell's lair? You mentioned a birth certificate? Yes, a lot of memos and markings indicate that the lair itself was much more recently inhabited than the lab. It's possible, entirely so, that the sociopath we executed and our confessor are not only entirely different Lidris, but Lidris separated by numerous generations. Great-great-grandmother doctor or whatever. Whether it's a now extinct family line of sociopaths or one really long-lived one, the point remains that Fennell is currently in the category of dealt with, Miles says. Maybe, Saeed says, and everyone turns to him. He sighs. I found a series of birth certificates. I find it more than possible that she had a bit more fun than just running a lethal current through the body to make it dance for her own amusement. So there may be psycho-children, Franklin mutters as he looks over his communicator. Prime mind syndrome is inheritable. Each of those kids, if they exist, has a better than half and half chance of being a sociopath. You doubt it still? We all saw Thunderthought's videos. Did she seem to be the type to have actual official documentation? No. She seemed dangerous, obsessive, and uncaring as to the effect these things had on others. On to things we know for a fact is that there's just shy of 2,000 bodies in the lair. 1,893 to be accurate. Basic scans are dating them around 200 years old at the most. Marcus says to get everything back on track. There are a lot of legal documents and bits of unusual technology hoarded away like some insane squirrel. Whether Fennell was the original mad scientist responsible for Moira and Lou corrects. I just said that, Marcus says. No, you completely butchered it in inflection. Lou chides him and gets a disappointed look from the other man. After a moment, Lou just puts up his hands. May I continue? Marcus asks. No, Lou says tartly. Too bad, Marcus replies before clearing his throat. She has acquired, putting aside the mortuary or three's worth of corpses, several million in stolen jewelry, over 250 weapons of wildly varying quality, entire filing cabinets and official data slates for the, at the time, official government of Vuxa 5, innumerable personal effects, nearly an entire ton of small personal items that were stolen like a magpie and just tossed in a room, numerous poorly maintained if not destroyed vehicles and several small vehicles in working order. There's also a shockingly well-made and maintained broadcasting room with restraints, chains, and instruments of torture. All told, if we can get the grime and stink of death off it, we've made a lot of money today off the public level alone. Which brings us to the hidden level, Miles says.